Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 118-109 win against the Golden State Warriors in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Riker, I joked before the pod, we're on a 5-game win streak against the Bucks and Warriors. There wasn't a point in this game where it looked like the Raptors were worried. It was phenomenal to see.
Ben, keep rambling for a second because I'm going to try to find a comment of the day. We actually just won the first game of the NBA Finals. It is a completely new feeling, and I'm sort of left speechless right now. So you keep going for a second. I'm going to pull up something from YouTube.
Certainly, because Riker, the Toronto Raptors is the first time they've ever been on the stage. Kawhi, Danny, they've been here before, and Serge as well. We'll talk about all the players individually after, but, the Golden State Warriors are a team that are trial-tested through and through. They've been in the finals, it seems like, the past 80 years. Every year you see Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They swept the Portland Trailblazers. They had, a week and a half rest. It looked like that they would be able to come into this game and, cement their game. They don't usually lose games that are very important to a series. And Game 1 on Toronto could completely demoralize the team and, the inexperienced Raptors, and it wasn't even the players that were tested and, the guys that have had the experience that carried the Toronto Raptors tonight. It was the newbies. It was the guys that have never been there, the guys that have just been, talked about in the playoffs. Fred VanVleet criticized to death before the last 3 games of the Bucks series. He came out, played phenomenal. Pascal Siakam is looking like, a god amongst boys on the basketball court, shooting 14-17 from the field, 32 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, with Draymond Green on him, Riker. The fact that we just played the Golden State Warriors, a team that every time you're on the court, you just expect to, whenever the ball's in Curry or Klay's hands, you just get very uncomfortable, you get tense as a fan of the other team, and with that big monstrous team, just looked so
offensively,
diminished.
They're not a big monstrous team. On offense, they are, and they're what we were saying in the last game, that sometimes a good defense is a better offense. You just win the game purely by outscoring the other team, and that's what you're the most worried about happening with the Warriors. I have a comment of the day. It's coming in mid-podcast, it seems, this one. Coop Donald, he's saying, if Pascal, Fred, Norm, and Kalo play good, we will win. He had the first 2 right because Pascal and Fred did explode, as you had just mentioned. But Ben, the series will completely shift once Kevin Durant comes back. But with that being said, Kawhi Leonard had his worst game of the playoffs so far and really wasn't needed that much on defense because a lot of the defense came from all the guys running around the perimeter guarding, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson. But what I really liked the most about this game was how they were able to slow it down. We had that as one of the keys. But the Raptors, they stayed very level-headed. Even Pascal Siakam, who's one of the most infamous guys now in the league for trying to sprint and do everything as fast as possible, I think the Kawhi Leonard mentality is bled off onto the rest of the team, and they used as much shot clock as possible on each possession. They passed the ball around really well. The person playing the most iso ball tonight, I felt like, was Kawhi Leonard, so it was really just a good, mature, poised display from the entire Raptors team.
Certainly, that's a guy you want to be playing iso ball, and you brought up the point that they aren't, fast breaking a lot. And I think they played a pretty fast game, but they didn't rush anything. The thing about, there's a big difference between rushing and playing fast. We saw a lot of fast breaks from Siakam, but those all came in the mid-post. The Golden State Warriors, they're such a disciplined team. They always have players back, but they never forced any dumb shots, and that was just great to see from the Toronto Raptors. But, I briefly mentioned him earlier. We have to talk about Pascal Siakam, Riker. 32 points in his first NBA Finals appearance. He was hitting dribble pull-up shots in Draymond Green's face. Draymond Green called himself the greatest defender of all time like a few days ago, and Pascal Siakam really made him eat his words tonight. 14 of 17 from the field.
Draymond Green doubled down on his assertion that he was the greatest defender of all time. When re-asked about it yesterday, he said, if you don't believe in yourself, then what are you doing? But Ben, my initial thoughts are, I don't understand how Pascal Siakam is able to do that out on the court. But then, under a more reasonable, rational lens, it makes sense. Pascal Siakam has probably 4 inches on Draymond Green. Yeah, Draymond Green is a little bit thicker. He's maybe got a little bit more weight on him. But Pascal Siakam is quick. He has a really good post up. He shook Draymond Green a little bit, and if he's playing with confidence, he can hit the three and he can hit that dribble pull. So it makes sense. That's what we wanted more from him in the Bucks series. And now that height disadvantage is gone because the Bucks are able to clog the key so much, and
they had Giannis on him.
Exactly, and the Warriors don't really have that much height. I mean, when they're playing the Jordan Bell, Draymond Green lineup, the tallest guy on the court is 6'9". So it makes sense if Pascal Siakam wants to stay confident in this series, he can score that much every series. Not at the same rate, but he can be in the 20s plus every single game.
Yeah, and that's what, and we talked about at the beginning of the playoffs. We expected, Kawhi Leonard to have great games night by night, but Pascal Siakam to be that second guy, that second option that, because tonight the Golden State Warriors completely loaded in on Kawhi Leonard. We'll talk about his performance after, but we needed Siakam to be that second guy that can pop off. And, against the Bucks and the second half of the Sixers series, he kind of waned off a little bit, but to see him bounce back in such a strong fashion in the NBA Finals is super encouraging to see. But the second guy we got to talk about, we talk about Kawhi every night, but Marc Gasol, especially at the beginning of this game, he was the main reason the Raptors came out and got the early lead. He had some weird foul calls on him, but even playing through foul trouble, 20 points, 7 rebounds, and just the aggression we saw from Marc Gasol. And he didn't take that many shots, but whenever he got the ball, he looked to score first, and it was a lot better to see, because we see Marc Gasol sometimes hesitate and give up open shots, but tonight didn't give up a thing. He even forced a couple shots down low and one contested three, and his offensive game looked like the Marc Gasol of the Memphis Grizzlies.
Well, Ben, I know you were happy to see that. You were saying at half court that everybody has been criticizing Marc Gasol and saying that he'll be unplayable in this series because he's not going to be able to keep up out on the perimeter and be able to handle switches. I'm certainly happy to see him play just because of how tentative and how hesitant he was whenever he'd received the ball in previous series to even look at the rim, right? He was not a pass-first guy. He was a pass-only, it seemed, and then sometimes he'd get the shot. So it's nice that he's looking at the basket. But explain to me this, Ben. How is it that Danny Green, I think he only hit 1 3 in the entire Bucks series. Marc Gasol didn't look fantastic in the Bucks series.
He had a couple good games. Gasol had a couple of good games, and his defense was great all around.
Yeah, and now Fred VanVleet is now able to continue the ball going, but we didn't get much performance from Kawhi Leonard tonight, and we especially didn't get that much performance, both in scoring terms only, right? They played really good all-around games, but from Kyle Lowry especially. So how is it that every single game for the Toronto Raptors, somebody else seems to step up? We obviously have constructed a team where there is a lot of individual talent, right? And it can happen. But why is it that on a night like tonight, you could see Danny Green finally make shots, and you can see Marc Gasol eat? Is it just because of how the defense changes, or is there something else playing here?
Well, we've played against 3 very good teams from the second round onwards, and we saw the role players really struggle against the Philadelphia 76ers. It was Kawhi Leonard who really had to carry, but I think that series was just a horrible matchup for the Toronto Raptors. They were so big and long. We're a more small ball team, and they could really bully our shooters, and it was just an unfortunate thing. We've talked about that. The Bucks were a better team, but we matched up a bit better against them, and it's almost like the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, the Warriors are much better than the 2 teams we played earlier, and this series is by no means over and nothing like that. But it feels like the Toronto Raptors are just built to go up against the Golden State Warriors. Ridiculously good on-ball defenders, a strong big man that can eat up whoever the Golden State Warriors have down low. Kawhi Leonard, even when KD comes back, a guy that can lock down that sort of player and can eat up on the other side of the court. I think the role players really match up well against the Golden State Warriors. So, obviously they're not going to be good on a night-by-night basis, and the Raptors are at home, so the role players always play better on their home court. I think, in games like this, we can really, especially when the matchups are good, we can see the role players really step up, and because they're not really going, they have Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, who are Hall of Famers, superstars, but the rest of them, Andre Iguodala is older, he'll probably be in the Hall of Fame as well, maybe he's in Finals MVP, but the rest of them, Alfonso McKinney, Jerebko, Looney, these guys can be taken advantage of by the Toronto Raptors bench, and we've given Nick Nurse credit for cutting down the rotation, and they played 9 guys tonight, but Norman Powell and McCall were basically.
I love to see McCall out there, but I'd love to see him out there. But Ben, I look at that lineup.
But the Warriors, they played 12 or the 11 players solid minutes.
Yeah, but that's just because they can't rely too much on DeMarcus Cousins. I think that this will completely shift.
Well, the Raptors are taking advantage.
Yes, but the dynamic will completely shift once Kevin Durant comes back and is reinserted into the lineup. If he's able to play next game, I'm not sure. I think that he probably will, to be honest, just based off a hunch, so to say. But Ben, I look at that lineup when they had only Klay Thompson out there, and I think it was Livingston and Quinn Cook and probably Kevon Looney, and then one more, maybe Iguodala, or maybe it was Rebko. But the only like really high-octane player was Klay Thompson. And I said, take the Warriors jerseys off of these guys and put any other team's jersey on there. That's a bad team. Like, none of those guys are going to, cause you any trouble. They have, I think, probably the worst bench that the Raptors have played now in this playoffs, so, like, to date. And that's a big thing to say against the Warriors. But without Kevin Durant and with DeMarcus Cousins playing the way he is, I think that the Warriors bench is atrocious. I don't think they have anybody solid coming off the bench that the Raptors should be concerned about. So they should do exactly what they did tonight every single night until Kevin Durant comes back.
If you look at the players individually, Quinn Cook, Alfonso McKinney, Jonas Jerebko, they're guys that bounce around the league. Like Alfonso McKinney got cut from the Toronto Raptors Summer League team. If you look at them individually, then I think you might have an argument there. But they play, Steve Kerr has crafted an offense where the open shots just come left, right, and center for these players. And the good thing about all these guys that you mentioned, aside from Sean Livingston, who I still think is a solid backup point guard. He does different things on the court. But when you have guys with just the gravity of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, it just opens up the floor for the rest of these players. And they are effective in the sense that they can hit their open threes. And we did see,
when Steph Curry's out there. I'm talking about the bench lineup. The bench lineup that they had when it was only Klay Thompson.
Even with Klay just out there and Sean Livingston be able to set people up, I still think that they're a solid. I wouldn't call them the worst bench that we've gone up against in the playoffs, but that's something that the people in the comment section could argue. We haven't really brought up the Raptors bench at all in this podcast, and it's almost the same.
How about we go to the segments first, and then we can come back to it, because they might come up in some of the things that we're talking about. I certainly have one or two things in mind.
That's fair. That's very fair. Tonight, the Kawhi doing like that play of the day. Riker, do you have one in mind?
I do. Fred VanVleet, the clock running down, one-legged. I think it hit backboard rim, it hit everything. It was a wild circus shot, and it went down. Fred VanVleet Sr., thank God for having a kid. It came at the perfect time because he has been hot ever since.
Fred VanVleet, he has to have kids before every game. That's the kind of theory that we came up with watching the game, or at least I did with the people I was watching with. But yeah, Fred VanVleet, he's been amazing, Riker. Before we swing into the OGs, 15 points, 2 assists, but 5 of 8 from the field, hit some timely buckets, some shots in the paint. He was driving a lot in this game. What were your just impressions on his all-around game, and including that wild shot?
Well, I said it earlier in the podcast. I think the most impressive thing to me with Fred VanVleet, or maybe not the most impressive, I guess anybody can do it, but just how Nick Nurse effectively used him to defend Stephen Curry. Steph is he is nonstop. He's just running around left, right, and center. You have to be completely on your toes, and why not wear out a guy like Fred VanVleet? Save the energy for Kyle, who's going to guard somebody else. But Fred did a really good job, and Steph Curry had, I think, 32 to 36 points, something in that range. But
they were difficult.
Yeah, I felt like it was good. And a lot of them were really bogus free throw call or foul calls. I thought that some of the calls, he embellishes a lot. He's a big flopper. But I think the defense was pretty solid. And Fred VanVleet is one of the major parts of that tonight.
Yep, certainly, Fred VanVleet's off-ball defense, we tweeted it out, he was just absolutely amazing. So, shout out to Fred VanVleet. He did a really good job in the regular season, guarding Steph Curry in those 2 games. So, it's great to see him continue that into the NBA Finals, but not all plays can be the Kawhi doing like that play of the day, and some just make you say, oh, geez, Riker. And, the OGs for me, it was Marc Gasol. He started off the game super aggressive, super hot, but there was one possession where he had the ball kind of kicked to him a little bit, and there was no one around him. They just, I guess the strategy now on Gasol is to not even guard him because he hasn't really been looking for a shot, and he still hesitated. He did that one little thing where he always looks to pass when there's no one around him, and then he finally, he came to his senses and shot the 3. He banged it down. I was like, oh geez. I was screaming at my TV because I was saying, Gasol, why even think about not taking that shot? But it was nice to see him aggressive all around otherwise.
That sounds good, man.
Yeah, and finally the infamous, the one.
We got the new segment, Ben.
Oh yeah, that's true. You take it away, Riker.
We'll take it away. You know what it's called? I locked it in. I don't love the title, but we're going with it. The True Warriors segment.
You think you can take me on?
That's the wrong question.
Oh yeah? What's the right one?
Do you really want to find out?
We were playing the Warriors, but obviously there's going to be a Raptor that shines, that deserves the title of the true Warrior in the game. I made a pretty meme segment. Hopefully you guys like it. But tonight for me, the true Warrior segment play was Pascal Siakam getting a huge rejection on Draymond Green, showing the best defensive player of all time a thing or two about how to properly play defense. It was pretty special moment.
Certainly, people call Pascal Siakam the next Draymond Green. He's the first Pascal Siakam. He's been out here and he's quieting the people that are making the comparisons because he wants to be better than Draymond. He's a scorer. He can do a lot, and that block was almost symbolism. It was metaphoric to Pascal Siakam's future of his career. We hope you guys like the new segment, but we got to end it off with a classic, a staple, the Damari Carroll Gold Star Award, Riker. And do you have a Damari Carroll Gold Star in mind?
Oh, I do, but it's not related to the basketball game, so if you want to go first, you can.
No, you take it. I know what it is.
We get out, I don't know, some guy. He won The Voice, apparently. I think that's a singing competition or something like that. I've never seen it. But a angelic voice, a big guy, but he's got a nice lady's voice on him, and it was beautiful. Sings the Star Spangled Banner. I felt like, the Canadians even gave the standing ovation. Well done. Really good performance. Now, I'm excited because the past, I think, entire series, we just had one guy singing the anthem for us, and he would always stop in the third verse or the second verse. I don't know. He would go silent and let the crowd sing. So I was ready to play my part, sing along. I had the intensity going, and they bring out a 3-man a cappella group with, piano and guitar. It was the worst performance I've ever heard in my entire life. And this is on top of some of the Super Bowl performances where the ladies forgot the lyrics to the Stars. This was the worst one. The worst of all time. I had to put it on mute, Ben. I was so disappointed. They did us dirty, but that's my Gold Star Award. Nothing related to the game, but they better bring out a better cast tomorrow night.
Yo, get it tweeting. Get it trending on Instagram, Twitter, or whatever. Get Ryker Richard to sing the national anthem of Game 2 of the NBA Finals.
You know why I do a good job?
Make it happen, Raptors Digest.
Do you know
fans.
why I would do a good job? Because I'd sing for 2 seconds, and then I would just let everybody else sing along with me. So it would just be it would be beautiful. It would be, everybody would have goosebumps. I wouldn't try to steal the show with a bunch of high notes. I would just sing it the way it's intended to, and it would be glorious.
We want the high notes, Riker. We want the high notes from you. Make it happen. Tweet it out. Anyways, before this podcast gets off the rails, you're the best for making this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. Ryker Richard for singing the national anthem of Game 2, NBA Finals. Make it happen, Raptors Digest fans.
There we go, man. I'm ready to eat my words. I hope the Raptors can now pull together another couple games and actually turn this into a real competitive series. They got the lead, and let's hope they can sustain it, Ben.
Let's get it, Riker.
Boom. Cheers.